time it is. So it's, oh, good. So the recording's working, Kathy, just so you know. That's a good thing. And so I'll call the meeting to order at 7:01. And Dave's got his flag right there. So if you'll join me in the pledge, that would be good. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was interesting because everybody's muted. Usually when everybody's not, we all talk at the same time and it's different. It doesn't always work right. But so we're going to go through our agenda. Public input. I don't see any public here, so I'm assuming we don't have public input. And anybody, once we get into doing any kind of reports or whatever, just make sure you unmute yourself when you're ready to speak. So since we don't have public input and don't have any correspondence other than what was sent out as part of the meeting documents, we don't have anything there. So I'm going to make a motion. So we'll do the meeting minutes approval. I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of January 12th, 2022.
Second.
Dave Olson seconds. Does anybody, you've all read them, so does anybody have any either additional comments or any kind of corrections, things like that? Everybody's good?
Yep.
So all in favor for
Aye.
passing the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Does anybody, I'm sure nobody's saying no, but does anybody need to abstain? Just kind of give us a way. I think everybody was here last time. So I don't think we have anybody that needs to abstain. Good. All right. So now we're right into old business, moving right along. We have first on our agenda, the police station project. And we have joining us from Jakunski Humes Architects, Brian Humes, and both Ryan Patrick and John Fraioli from Downs Construction, the construction managers on the project. So there might be a few public site people who have not had the opportunity to meet Ryan or Brian or John, but you see them, so here they are. And we're hopefully doing the final things we need to do to be finished up with all of this. And basically where we are is we have a change order to approve, which is the final change order, and then an application for payment, which is the final application for payment. So Ryan, I don't know if you want to jump right in there, and if you want to put any documents up on the screen, or if you need me to, I can do that too.
Either way, I would say it's probably makes the most sense to start off with the change order.
Yep.
That way we can make sense of the requisition next.
Right.
I
So
can
if you have,
share you.
yeah, if you can share that, Kathy, you need to make Ryan co-host so that he can screen share. Which Kathy knows how to do all that stuff. We just can't hear her.
I think she did it.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
There we are. Yep. We're good.
So I'll go to the top. This is the change order. It consists of 5 COPs. And we'll go through each one of them. The reason why you see a 0 value here is because each one was taken from contingency. So no overall effect to no added cost to the budget itself. We'll start with COP 121. This was to install the metal fascia and caulking at the firing range. The metal fascia was installed around the back side, and then all 3 sides were caulked. added after the fact. This was, part of the water infiltration solution, as an added precaution. The work was performed by Greenwood. The next page, this is their pricing to us. So it was 150 lineal feet of bronze extender and approximately 340 or so feet of lineal feet of caulking. So this is where it was installed, right here.
So that
And
was in addition to what was already there as a kind of precautionary, just in case that was one place that the water was coming in, especially in that area where there's some of the split face block is irregular.
correct.
Yeah.
So that would protect it from coming back in here.
Yep.
You can see a picture of it here. So it was all along this side.
Yep.
So this actually isn't metal fascia, but this is existing metal fascia caulked to the block.
Mhm.
And that ran all the way across the front. And a drawing of it. This actually kind of details the next couple of CORs, but anybody have any questions regarding that one?
Good.
All right.
And I think, Brian, each of these change orders, I know you've got them spelled out individually. I don't think that we, as the Public Site and Building Commission, need to approve them because they're coming from the construction manager contingency. And
Yes.
and it's just that final, I know each one lays out the amounts, and the amounts are for what we discussed was a couple of years ago originally, as far as, doing the caulking, adding the fascia, doing the coating, et cetera, everything that you've got spelled out here with the amounts that go with that. I don't think that we need to approve those.
There's one that needs to be
Specifically,
approved.
yes,
I
the
believe.
one that is final, that has that final change to anything that changes the GMP is what we would have to approve.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
So the next one is pertaining, it's COP 122. This had to do with the water infiltration tests and the supervision that took place throughout the entire investigation, water testing and corrective or additional work, as well as the next COP for the exterior coating as well. So this is the breakdown. And they're not the actual hours that were worked. Prior to starting the work, we negotiated with the town for an amount of less than 50,000 for so that would be COPs 121, 122, and 123. The hours were actually more, but we had a negotiated price going in. The total of the three COPs came out to be 48,366. The next one is change order 123. And this was for Deco to install the exterior applicant on all sides. And this was obviously to keep the water infiltration out, out of the building. in doing so, you would ask the question of the current status and whether you could move forward with the interior fit out. And my response was that all work has been completed. And we believe it's our opinion that you can proceed with the interior fit out. We did a final water testing, which passed. So you should be all set now. Behind this was just some of the product data of what was applied, and it was part of the submittal that was submitted to Brian Humes for approval. And again, the same drawing, just calling out what was done on each side of the building. Next. This was for the additional roof leaders that were requested on the firing range. So this was above and beyond the original agreement. Again, performed by Greenwood, and work was completed. We utilized the construction contingency again. And this is the backup. And then a drawing of where it was located and where they're at.
Right.
The last COP is COP 125. And this is the remaining balance of the contingency that goes back, it's credited back to zero out our requisition.
Right.
So the total amount was 28,787.
So basically, for everyone, the change orders 121, 122, 123, 124, each amount was part of what we had agreed to do. 121, 122, 123, 124 being the added leaders when we did the final, well, the one water test, which we ended up not having to really do a test because it was the beginning of September. And we did talk about it a few times with photos, etc., where we had the storm and the whole place was just drenched, and there was only one, not really small, but one linear area where water was coming in. And thank you to Brian, who also was there jumping right up on the roof and doing some troubleshooting with a couple other people, including John from Downs, etc., and figured out, where that infiltration was happening. Combination of the backup of the gutter and the downspouts or leaders not working correctly, and where the attachments were to the building, and that being taken care of with adding some leaders, making sure. So we'll have to make sure that Public Works puts cleaning out those gutters on a regular schedule with the way they take care of any other roof for any other town building, making sure those are cleaned out and not clogged up, and some additional caulking in a few places took care of that. So now, does anybody have any questions for Ryan on any of this? He can go back to any page if you need. But as I said, our sequence would be to approve this final change order number 125, which does change the GMP with a credit back to the town. And that would be something that would have to be signed by Matt if we approve it, once we approve it. And then their final application for payment would be the next step. And I know some of you weren't part of this all along, but if you have questions, jump right in.
So Nancy,
Yep.
do we need a motion then on that change order 125?
Yes, we would.
I would make that motion.
I'll
Hey,
second it.
So Roy makes the motion to approve change order proposal number 125 in the amount of a credit of $28,787.33. And who was the second?
Me, John.
John Menti was second. So now, which we should have made the motion first before discussion, but is there any other discussion? Does anybody have any other questions? I know I sent all of this out 2 weeks ago prior to our meeting on the 12th, and then sent it out again for everybody's review, so that if you had questions, you could bring them right in. Anything? Everybody's good? All right, so then let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? And does anybody need to abstain? So we are good to go. Now, through all the process of doing the coating, adding the metal coping or metal to the fascia of the roof, and then caulking, all that, et cetera, was supervised closely by John Fraioli, who's on the call with us today. If anybody has any specific questions for John, I'm sure he can answer them. He's become quite familiar with all of that part.
I'm just glad that it's finally resolved.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I think it's been good that we did get it resolved. And then again, Brian's on with us. I appreciate all your help at the end there, Brian, with coming up with figuring out where that leak was coming from, and then some of the other situations with the coating, et cetera. I think the process that we went through by doing that one section, and then when we did the water test between the section was coated and the section that wasn't, was that was eye-opening. So
I think the process, while it took time, I think you had some of the best minds in the industry and some of the best minds in the region all working together to try to find a suitable resolution. And while it took time, I think what you're looking at is everybody's recommendations were all kind of thrown into the same pot to say, why don't we just take everybody's recommendations about adding some flashing or adding some caulking or adding, some primer and 2 coats. And so while those iterations took some time, it all compiled into what you're seeing tonight. And I think it was successful. And I agree with Ryan that from what we've observed, we feel confident that you can continue with the outfitting of the interior.
I just have one quick question. Is this, I know we talked about a couple different coatings. Does this have to be redone in 10 years? I forgot what the life expectancy was on this coating. I know we
yeah,
talked
we get it.
multiple ones.
Yeah. I know I read.
It does have a life expectancy.
Yeah, no, they all do. I just couldn't remember which one this one was.
I believe this was a 10-year warranty.
That's what I thought I remember reading something like that. I just couldn't remember. Thank you. Okay.
John, I guess John Fraley would be the person who might remember. Did we had talked about ordering extra and having that stay at the range, because there's those 2 sections where we have to do infill once the big door opening where they've got to bring a forklift in to put everything up on the ceiling, and then the smaller section where some of the ductwork for the HVAC has to go in. And we had talked about making sure we had enough to recoat those areas once the split face block is put in.
That's a good idea.
Yep,
Did we?
that's correct.
And do we have that? Is it at the range?
Yeah, that's correct. It was delivered to the range. It's inside.
Okay, great.
Is there a shelf life on that we need to worry about? Like if they take the time doing it out, we could need to buy.
I know at the time we talked about that, and I think your timing and your time frame to fit out the range worked with the shelf life.
Okay.
If in fact anything is delayed and there are any issues with it, just let us know.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Good.
And I second what Brian said. I know it was time consuming and at sometimes frustrating, but it was the methodical approach that we had to take to get to the end result. So, and it was all worth it.
Even Al and I were here.
Yeah, I would agree in that it did seem, especially to some people, like it took a long time, but having all the different people give their inputs, especially all of the different reports, et cetera, brought us obviously to the best solution, and we see that it's working. So, all right. So now I think we can go, unless anybody has any other general questions for Ryan. I haven't seen him in a long time, so ask away. Or John, or Brian, whom we haven't seen in a while either. So some of us have, because we've been there in person. Please ask, otherwise we're going to get into their payment. Good. Yes, so let's put that up. So this would be the final application for payment from Downs, and the amount due, $58,331.05, is mostly all of those change order 121, 122, 123, 124, plus about, if I'm remembering correctly, about 2,500 that was kept in retainage from the Masons. And
That's correct.
and the Masons actually did come in and do their repairs, et cetera, at no additional cost. So so that was a retainage amount that was due to the Masons, and that's part of that 58,000. Then the rest again being those 4 change orders. Again, with if you looked at these sheets, with that amount, final amount of the GMP, and then resulting in a credit back to the town.
So the revised contract sum would be $12,353,807.47.
Okay. And that that amount, that's the revised GMP, correct?
That is,
And is that on the first page? I know you're gonna have to jump back and forth.
yep, right here.
It's so that credit, that's the amount, and then that first page of the change order number 8 that has the credit back to the town also has that. No, doesn't have the final amount.
The first page actually does with this is
That
the
part,
actual
yes.
change order.
Yes, yep. Yeah, so that actual change order, as I said, is, I can't sign it. So Matt Knickerbocker's gonna have to sign it, but once we, it's approved now, so I can have him sign it. And then when we get and I can use this doc that you sent, these pages that you sent. And then once I get the signed and stamped, notarized, going back to this, once I get that, that'll be approved and go up to finance for payment. So I'm
So-
gonna make a
I mailed it.
motion. Was that, you mailed it? Great.
Yeah, it should be there tomorrow or the
Okay.
following day.
All right, I'll be looking for it. So I'm gonna make a motion that we approve. Let's see, I have to be able to see the whole thing. Approve Downs Construction application for payment number 22, is it?
Oh, yes,
Yeah, I know.
it is.
Yeah, fine, and which is the final application for payment in the amount of $58,331.05.
Second that,
Okay, who was that seconding?
Roy.
Roy, thank you. All right, so now, is there any further discussion on this? The few pages that follow have all the information as to which of the contractors have outstanding amounts due to them, the amount, including, as I said, Connecticut Masons, and the last application for payment, because I was kind of keeping track, that we got from Downs, which was probably a little over a year ago, which caught us up to a few outstanding like site work, things like that.
Mhm.
The contingency amount back then was 80 something thousand. So, it was 58 plus the 28 gives us that 80 something thousand where we were a couple of years ago when we did approved an application for payment. So any other questions on this, any other, et cetera? Are we good to go? Can we?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Is anybody opposed? Or does anybody feel like they need to abstain? Okay, so that's done. Like I said, I will get the change order signed, and then once this comes in, that'll get signed and sent up to finance for processing. And that is just a reminder, since we've changed our meeting nights, but had a conversation with finance and with Kathy earlier today, since we've changed our meeting nights to Wednesday night, and the town still does their check runs on Thursday, it gives us probably usually not enough time between Wednesday and the check run Thursday to get everything to finance that they need to be able to get checks done. So there may be times when we can do that, but most often you'll need to, those people looking for money, you'll need to expect to wait a week. As I said, it's part of all of the paperwork we need to get to finance to be able to have them do the checks. So once I get that info in the mail, Ryan, I will get everything. I'll let you know that I've received it and let you know what the process. So I
Okay,
think we're done with this part. And I think before Ryan and Brian Humes sign off, if you've got, again, any other questions, comments, etc., please jump in now.
Good.
Everybody good? Everybody good?
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Good.
All right. Well, again, thank you, Ryan. Good to see you
Thank you.
again. Thank you, John.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you again. Thank you, Brian. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Nice seeing you,
Thanks.
Nancy.
So
Take care.
then,
thank you.
yep, take care.
See
And
you.
Ryan,
Bye.
you can take your screen share down, and then we'll just move along if everybody's good with that. Excellent. Again, thanks. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See ya.
Hey, see, Ryan's looking a little weathered. He's got other jobs he's running to. All right, so now we can work on our school projects. That didn't take long. So let's jump right into that. Close out and kind of a progress report. What's going on? Who wants to start? Is it coming from Ken and Jim or Geraldine? Who's on first? You're muted, Geraldine.
Yeah, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not sure that we have any progress to report, but I'll defer to Ken and Jim to find out if there's any progress on negotiations with contractors and closeout.
Bueller.
Maybe not.
Bueller. Here's Ken.
Yes, we have a meeting with Ferguson tomorrow. We have Action Air settled and they have a requisition in for January that I'll be submitting.
So basically what you've been working the most on, Ken and Jim, is that whole closeout process.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else we need to know about that part? Or any questions for Ken or Jim?
We should
Okay.
expect to have that by the next meeting so we can finalize things too, correct?
Yeah, I think you'll have Ferguson by next meeting.
Great. 'Cause I know, I'm sure Terry is anxious to start putting this to bed.
Well, yep, we all are. So and the next meeting's beginning of February, so I would think that Ken and Jim are working as much as they can to get another application for payment in, and they probably won't be able to do that if they're not getting the closeout documents, what they need from people who still owe them paperwork. That's the fun part, paperwork.
Mhm.
Do you think, Ken, do you think we'll have an application for payment in February?
I think we'll have something for February. I mean, I have one for January, so yeah, we'll have at least Ferguson.
Well, I mean, for the February meeting, it would be the January application.
Yeah, we'll have something for that meeting.
Okay. So then, do we have anything? Because I'm just going down the bullets and kind of left a lot of them there just in case we need to talk about them. They're not, being a regular meeting, we don't really have to stick to it, but it's just kind of like reminders for us to kind of check in to find out what's going on. So the next is our site work punch list report. And do we have any updates on the outstanding site work stuff?
Just that we got samples of the topsoil for zoning, and they're tested by special testing, and the results are due back on February 2nd.
Okay. And it was just the soil that they were looking for testing on? Were they looking for anything else? And that's the soccer field, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have an email on the construction of it being acceptable. So I
Okay.
think we have it covered. It's just the soil samples.
Okay.
Yeah, I can clarify. Beth Cavagna in land use is looking for the test results and a report or an opinion or an acceptance by SLR, the site engineers, and that's for compliance with conditions that were included in the specifications. So a certain compaction on the soil that was used, a certain I can't think of the word now, a certain, what's in the soil, that they used for topsoil, even though it was on site. She was just looking for more information as the specifications required, testing on that topsoil to be reused. So we're hopeful that once the results are in and SLR has a chance to review and make a comment for Beth, that then land use will be able to sign off on the CO. That's what this is all about.
So then, is part of the closeout process, at least for the site work, because there was that report from SLR and kind of went through Perkins Eastman, and then certain things had to be either shown to be done correctly, or the specifications had to be shown that were correct, etc. Is there another report or another sort of discussion about that has to happen? Do we go through each? There were all the different items with some with photos and some with comments, etc. What's the process of making sure all that gets done correctly?
So there are still outstanding punch list issues. And I think the way we left it at the end of the last meeting was we are waiting for, we're either waiting for spring so that we can examine the results and the current condition of all the planting, or we are waiting for a plan from Rizzo to
What we're gonna do, Nancy, is we get a response from Priority, we'll forward that to you. It has been problematic getting a hold of him, and so that's been the
Sure.
delay on our side as far as getting a formal response. I can send you what he sent us, but it doesn't really answer what you're asking, so.
So you're asking him for a more specific response or.
But contractually, I have to, right? We forwarded
Right.
he needs to respond to that. So.
Okay,
Jim, that would be helpful. I think once you get that, then we can all talk about it too. So
Sure.
I think that's very helpful. We can't do too much. Until we
It
see
sounds
what-
simple, but it's been painful.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about.
yep. Okay, so anything else on site work that we need to look into or discuss right now? All right. Budget review. Is that what we want to do next, or do we want to jump into something else?
No, I think budget review is the next appropriate topic. After booking the invoices and in the last requisition, the last application for payment, you can see this is for Johnson. This is our typical tracking report. They change very little every month now because there's so little money going in and out. But you can see that we are at 96% completion on the entire project, 99% complete in the billing towards construction, and that at Johnson we still have $1,286,370 some dollars remaining in the owner's contingency. Similarly for Rockwell, very similar. Overall project is filled out at about 97% with construction at 99%. And we are holding fast at a little over $500,000 in the red on that contingency amount, which brings us to the combined report, which gets simpler now every month. Updated construction and total project costs in the upper section here. We are still tracking, currently we're still tracking about, $700,000 under the referendum approval amount, just based on contractual commitments. We're going to talk about a couple of change orders tonight. They're not construction change orders, they're requests for additional furniture. So that's what we're carrying in this PCO submitted area, as well as we're still carrying some anticipated bond adjustment values. I think that's becoming less and less likely as we're closing out subcontractor contracts. Last meeting, the Public Site and Building Commission agreed to increase or give back to the construction manager's contingency $105,800 to cover additional contingency expenditures that were removed based on the increase in the roofing contractor's contract. We've not seen the PCO from Rizzo for that yet. I expect that we'll see that with the application for payment at the end of this month. So it's still being carried in this section rather than an adjustment to the contract amount. And then, of course, we're still carrying the current or original additional fee requests from Perkins Eastman and Rizzo until those settlement amounts are finalized. So we're still carrying these. We think that they're conservative and more than will be accepted settlement. So that puts us in a good position. Some leftover balances in utility costs that we're just still carrying as a credit. And then you'll see the same owner contingencies down here that we just discussed. All said, all together, on the outside, on the conservative, sort of the conservative estimate is that we are currently about $900,000 under budget on the combined two projects.
Good. Any questions on budget for Geraldine? Good. So change order, things that you're going to talk to us about.
Yeah, so furniture. We had a request from Dr. Carver, who was passing on a request from the principals at the two schools to purchase some additional furniture, partly based on something that we missed on the original furniture procurement, and then partly because at Johnson School, they have exceeded their enrollment projections and have more children in the classrooms than we had originally counted on when number of desks were assigned and furniture was procured under the original project. So I'll start with Rockwell. At Rockwell, there were 3 2-drawer lateral file cabinets that were specified in the original package and previously approved by the building committee to be purchased. They were bid, they were part of a bid award. It was I'm not clear on how this happened, but they were awarded to one contractor and then removed from that vendor and then added supposedly in a note I have in some minutes or some documentation, were supposed to be transferred to a different vendor, and it just never happened. So 3 2-drawer filing cabinets for the admin area in Rockwell just sort of fell through the cracks. They were never ordered. They were never invoiced. They were never paid for. The money is technically still in the budget to procure those 3 filing cabinets, but because we're about 2 years later now, I requested a new quote. They're likely going to increase in price. We are still going to plan to purchase them off of state contract, which is how I calculated the estimated cost of the 3 filing cabinets at $1,665. But that is now with Red Thread. I do not have a quote back from them yet, but we would expect to have that by the next meeting. So those 3 filing cabinets are items that should have been ordered with the original specifications, the original procurement, but were not. On the Johnson School side, that's where we have a higher census of students than had been anticipated. And the school is asking us to support the purchase of 40 more desks and chairs. And you'll see there's 40 desks and the chairs are spread between the 2 sizes that the sizes of the chairs are different for 3rd grade versus 4th and 5th, or 3rd and 4th versus 5th grade. So a total of 40 chairs and a total of 40 additional desks. The plan and what I did was I went back to Red Thread. They supplied these items under the original purchase order. We're asking them for an updated pricing and a new quote on these items in order for the school to have enough desks for all the kids. The other item at Johnson is our stools. I didn't have it available to show, but in each classroom and in many of the instructional spaces, there are half-moon tables that have space for potentially 5 students to meet in a breakout group with the teacher. Under the original specifications, all of the stools for these half-moon, the tables were new, but the assumption under a value engineering exercise was that the school would reuse all of the old stools. Well, some of the stools didn't make it through the moves. Some of them disappeared. We're not even sure how many stools are actually, whether they were an adequate number of stools. My suspicion is that we actually have more tables than there were originally, stools to seat at all the tables. In any case, there is a need for 175 stools to provide seating area at all of the half-round tables that now are populated throughout the building. This is a stool, it's very standard stool that's ordered for many schools throughout Connecticut. I did a little research, presented it to the principal. She said, this looks fine. And again, it is an item that's on state contract. So we have asked RH Lord. They're a typical school supplier. They had supplied other items under the original specifications and the original procurement process. We've asked them for a quote as well. Again, state contract for that manufacturer. There's only a 16% discount, but you can see on this budget estimate what we're thinking we'll need to ask you to approve as an additional expenditure. All told, for all of the furniture, it's slightly under $30,000. And I did insert that into that contingency and cash flow analysis. So the numbers that I showed with the combined project being about $900,000 under budget is after we would, after this expenditure, should you approve it. So process-wise, since I don't have the quotes back yet, what I'm looking is just for a general affirmation of this approach, that you're, that you're on board in support of this additional furniture. And then at the next meeting, we'll actually ask you to approve the dollar amount, the actual quote.
Motion to approve additional furniture pending the actual pricing.
I'll second it.
I don't know as we need to make a motion. We could, I suppose. Kathy can't tell
Okay.
us because, all right, so we had a motion to approve. Do we want to say, I mean, you already said pending, Dave, additional information, so I don't think we need to put an amount in there. I think would be
Right.
probably the
Didn't
best.
intend to.
Yeah. And then we had a
Nothing
second.
here. Nothing here is really, oh, sorry, second first.
Yeah, somebody already seconded. Who was the second?
Done.
Okay, John. Okay.
So nothing here is really time critical. By the time we do get your approval next meeting and actually order it, and we likely will not accept delivery on this furniture until the summer anyway, so as not to disrupt any, classroom activity. So that's sort of the timeline that we're looking at.
Okay. Yeah, they've kind of been living without it for a while, and I'm sure
Right.
there may be some supply chain things that we can't expect it to be
Also true.
here right away. So yeah. Okay, so we'll do the approval and then look for more specific amounts at our next meeting.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, Kathy's right. We don't need to approve it, but let's just go on record as saying that we'll. We're not going to do a not to exceed. We're just going to approve.
Accept the
Moving forward.
recommendation.
Yeah, moving forward with getting the prices together and then for approval of the amount at the next meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Done. And so these, I guess as part of the discussion, I should have asked, there aren't anything, but, well, Rockwell didn't have increase, a large enough increase, but for Johnson, there's not any other possible, not that we want to go and spend all the money, but at the same time, are there other things that are needed at the schools?
Well, while I was
Yeah, I know.
discussing this purchase with Christine, I did say if we're going to ask for additional pieces, let's do it all at once. I think Terry's still on. Maybe she could confirm that this is it.
Yes, and we've been trying to get everyone to wrap things up. The other odd thing with COVID was we had to move furniture out of classrooms for a year to try to have more social distancing, and those kidney tables couldn't be used for a year, and so it was a confusing time. And so that partially explains why they didn't realize they need all the stools. But we do have we have a lot more children. So right now it's a little mismatch the way they've had to set up the classrooms, and the school is just so beautiful. We agree, this should be it.
It's good
So
to know.
We're not gonna see a truck request for Gem and Arrow or something like that.
No truck.
We're gonna vote no for that.
Oh, come on. We'll put a plow on it. That'll make it work.
No. He's cut off. He's done.
He's got his stair lift that he can drive around.
Don't worry, Bob. I'll fight for you.
I will share with you that that scissor lift has already been used, right, Bob? It's been used by the town folks, the town maintenance folks. So it's already come in handy, and each time you have to rent one of those, it's a big scheduling thing, and so we're thrilled and we're very grateful.
Hey, Terry.
Can I ask a silly question?
I have one question. Hey, Terry, did Johnson say anything about their cafeteria tables? Do they need additional tables there?
No, they
That
didn't say
enrollment?
that.
Okay.
No.
I thought we took care of getting a couple of additional tables at
We bought it.
Johnson a while back.
Yeah, there was one additional table. I think it actually was at Rockwell, but there is literally, forget COVID and social distancing, there's no more room. I think
Okay.
that Joe maxed out the number of tables that
Yeah.
could fit in each of those
Yeah.
areas originally.
Yeah, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, you can see right behind him. There's not enough
Yes.
space. He's there now. So, yeah, I think once they start, using the cafeteria more like it's supposed to be, they're still gonna, you can't put the tables any closer together without the kids climbing on each other. So, I know we had to do an additional table or half table or something, or some additional stools or something that to make space, a few more spaces. And we did that a while back, but I don't think we can fit anything more in there.
Well, right now we're running additional lunch waves because we have the children spaced. That we've measured to make sure that they're at least 3 feet apart when they're having their lunch. So once they don't have to do that any longer, I think all will be great.
Yeah, you probably start lunch at 9 and go until 2
It's a
o'clock in the
little
afternoon
crazy,
in order to.
yes. It is a little crazy right now with
Yeah.
the lunch wave.
Yeah. Okay, good. So there aren't any other change orders right now. So professional services, additional service requests. I don't have anything specific, but I know that the discussion back and forth has kind of continues, but it's also progressed. So I'm hoping that we have some amounts and things happening. And again, I'm not sure whether they come back to us or whether they're done by the Board of Selectmen. So, because that's a change in a contract amount. So maybe by the next meeting, I'll have something more specific to pass along for everyone. And since I don't have that information, and again, not sure whether we need to approve it, we don't need to do anything with executive session tonight. I will tell Joe Colada, I have the most recent extended services signed. So I'll scan that and send that to you. And Geraldine, I have your signature pages too, so I'll have to get those to you.
Thank you.
And then we got invoices, unless there's anything else. Anybody have anything else that they need to throw out there, discuss, etc.? To find my invoices. Here they are. Oh,
Trying to mute.
whatever that was. Yeah, mute yourselves. So there are 2 Perkins Eastman invoices, 2 STV invoices. That's what we have tonight. So I'll make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68962.07.0-10 for Johnson School in the amount of $675.75.
I'll second that.
Got a second from Roy. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And done. And then we have another Perkins Eastman. Make a motion that we approve Perkins Eastman invoice number 68961.06.0-10 in the amount of $357.75.
Second.
From John Menti. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. So then I make a motion, we approve STV invoice number 900234001. Oh, wait.
Oops,
You put the other one up there. Okay.
I
That's
did.
okay right there. I have it. Oh, I have it.
There-
900-23400 for Johnson School in the amount of $2,912.
Second.
John Menti seconds. All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Done. Last one. So I'll make a motion that we approve STV invoice number 900-23401. The amount of $2,876.
Second.
John Menti seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Done. So does anybody have anything else on the school projects that they need to either report or ask about or et cetera? Good. So I'm going to say again, generally, changing the meeting night puts us in a situation where kind of out of sync with stuff goes on up at finance. So depending on how many invoices and meeting minutes, et cetera, we may not be able to get all the paperwork to finance in enough time on Thursday for them when they do their check run. You're going to have to wait a week. So you're going to have to, I don't know if anybody has any questions about that or what.
If you want
No,
to,
I will.
all my
John-
fault.
But wait. It's John Perna's fault. But Geraldine,
Yeah.
what do you have?
Well, I know I was gonna say, Joe and I were just talking today about how quickly the town pays. It's, so I think we can afford the week because,
Yeah.
but it's the one client that we both don't have to chase to find
Yeah.
out, where are we after 30 days. So,
Right. Well, and if Kathy could talk, she can talk, she just can't use her microphone. She'll let you know that they're right on. They know when we have our meetings. Finance knows when we have our meetings. They're right away on asking her where the minutes are, where the invoices are, et cetera. And I'm always right there having signed them and bring them in as soon as I can. But that was, from Tuesday to Thursday. So now we've got less time. We're just going to have to, it's what it is. You get some municipalities that pay every 2 weeks or whatever. And so we're just going to have to figure out everybody's cash flow and deal with it. So I'm sure if they could, they would run around and take care of it. But I think for the most part, have that expectation that it might not be till the following week. And blame John Perna.
I'll take full blame.
Okay, so
I think it's gonna cost a bottle of wine or two.
yeah, you're gonna have to invite every.
I don't know, Mandy, if you could drink it and still, I question, everybody else I think would handle it okay. I don't know about you.
I'll give it a shot, brother.
All right.
You're gonna have to invite everybody to your next wine opening thing, so.
Everybody will know.
So we're done with the school stuff, but I kind of missed a couple of police station things as we're finishing up, all the stuff we just did earlier. We've got a quick little update to do with the station and the firing range, training range project. So I think unless Ken and Jim have anything else they need to throw in about school stuff, and Bob and Terry, you guys are good to go. Geraldine, stick around because you might have.
I did have just one question.
Okay.
Where do we stand with the roof
The roof,
or panels?
and the solar panels and all that. Good question.
Yeah.
Who's got that answer?
They haven't had any leaks since.
So there haven't been any leaks.
No,
Did all the paperwork get done and
that I
The
can't answer.
the warranties
Oh.
get put, the warranties back in place and all?
So the
Good
only
question.
thing that I would say is make sure we have the warranty.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Ken or Jim, do you know anything about if the warranties did you get anything? I mean, I don't think you would, but
No, I haven't seen anything on it.
And Bob, have you gotten anything?
No,
Is this something we need to check into?
I think we have to ask the solar people to produce it for us.
Yeah, yep.
You know,
Yeah,
I think, in
I can
fact,
call
I think,
them.
yeah, and if it doesn't work there, we should formalize it with a letter because, you know, we got to know what's going on there.
Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
call them and also email them. This way here, we have a record.
That'd be great, Bob, because I think you got to start, I think we're really gonna have to start tracking this.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Terrific,
because
thank you.
I think that when I remember the last point we were at, like Rizzo had done all the stuff they needed to do. Solar people kept asking for paperwork, which we had produced, and then we had to produce it again. But I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think we got any kind of the warranty's good to go now. So
Yeah,
we should check on that.
Okay,
and
will do.
it's not Rizzo's responsibility.
No,
I mean,
not at all.
so-
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
All right,
thanks.
good night, everybody.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. So, we were kind of gonna do this all at the same time, but then I jumped right out of it. But back to we did the invoices, so we've approved that change order and approved the application for payment for Downs. That's done. And, John Menti asked me to see if I could come up with, ask Brad in finance for where we are with the budget. And Ryan Patrick had asked me too, what are the questions people are asking? And I said, there's always questions about the budget, yet you're not going to have all that information. And he did send, and I believe I forwarded that email to everyone, where they were with the GMP, because what I'm remembering is when Ryan would report to us each meeting, he would give us an update of where they were with the GMP. So that would be the construction manager's part. The soft costs were just amounts that were put in there, and no one was tracking them. I mean, finance kind of has a spreadsheet with all that information, but the amounts that were in the budget reports that Ryan gave us were just fixed amounts. Architect, FF&E, et cetera. And they were all the budgeted amounts. They were not tracking each amount as it changed. So what Brad sent, and I sent that email, I could try to put it, see if I can get to it and see if I can, I don't know if I can put it up. Anyways, what it looks like to me, I have to do is see, I know Brad has spreadsheets. So he sent a final amount, which was 14.4 million, which is a little over what the referendum amount was. But he sent by year how much was spent. And so there was money spent in 2020, money spent in 2021, and money spent in 2022. We didn't spend that money. So what expenses are being charged to the project? That's basically what I have to find out. So, John is asking for how much is left. We know that there's that 28,000 that's coming back to the town out of the GMP and out of the construction manager's contingency. Yet I'm remembering that's about the amount we had to spend to make those bridges over the ductwork and add the blinds and a few other things that we did. They become more like soft costs. They're kind of out of the construction manager's amount or out of the GMP. So I know, like the FF&E, I know that when Pugner did all of that, he did not spend the entire amount that was budgeted. So there are some things that I know are in the soft cost section are under budget. But what are those other things? So we're going to have to find out what those things are and why are they being charged to the project when they really aren't part of the project.
Yeah, I agree with you, Nancy, because there's a little bit of a spread there, about $60,000 spread, I believe. And
Yeah.
I tend to agree with you. There's many items without knowing what that list is. They might all be legitimate, but it'd be nice to see what it was.
I'm wondering if they're charging some of the, like when they hired the engineer back to do,
That's
the
what
report.
that's
Are
kind
they
of what I was wondering too. Yeah.
are they charging that against the project? And I kind of
Yep.
don't think it should be. It should not be charged against the referendum amount.
Yeah.
Because
that's what
that
I
would-
wasn't too sure.
Yeah, because that would then, what we need, I think what we really would like would be helpful also for Geraldine to know. The paperwork between STV and the town has been executed. So STV is now on board as the owner's rep for the training range project.
Good.
And it would be good to know, is there some money that we can use and can we? So Geraldine's gonna have a conversation with Brad to find out some details about that. Do you want to give us a little bit of an update of what
Yeah.
you've got so far?
Sure. So not much movement since the report on the last meeting, but I can recap where we're at today. Mike Libertini at the police department is finalizing the scope of the action target of the actual firing range equipment package with action target. They have their latest quote on that equipment was from May. So of course, we're assuming there's going to be some price differential. And there's also some alternatives within that package that the police department needs to decide what components they really want to settle on for the firing range equipment. So once we have that program in that cost, or simultaneously with that, I do need to get together with Brad to settle up a number of things. Number one, I don't know what the budget for the firing range project altogether is. Matt threw out a number of about $1 million, but I don't know. I need to know what's the town allocating to this project. So I need to find out what the budget is for this new phase. Because the intent is to order about $600 and some thousand worth of equipment from the sole source of Action Target, I want to make sure that we're doing that correctly in terms of the town procurement policies, and that we're documenting it or justifying it in the right way. I think there's good reason to go with Action Target. We all know there's only a couple of companies that supply this kind of equipment. This is the one that the police department wants. They've already vetted sort of the components of the range equipment, but we need to document it just to make sure that we're complying with procurement policies. Then we also know that there are some components, there's some scope on the project that is going to be outside the quote and the scope and the contract of Action Target, because there's just some, just making getting access into the building, through the block wall, patching that back up, building it, providing a door, providing some lighting. There are some finished components that are outside of the Action Target scope. So we will need a design professional, whether it's an architect or an engineer. Somebody's going to need to develop drawings and specifications so that we can get accurate construction cost pricing on that scope. Again, I need to talk to Brad whether those services need to be bid. Can we just, can we target some firms? Can we go back to Jakinski Humes? Because I think that's the most cost-efficient way to approach this. The scope is small. They're already familiar with the project. They've got some of the work done already. But I need to work that out with Brad. Similarly, for the construction portion of the project, we know Action Target's going to install all of their equipment and also do the sort of a design build on the HVAC and ventilation equipment. But there's going to be some other construction pieces that need to be pulled together. Again, do we have to go out? Can we go out? Should we go out and bid a contractor, probably a general contractor at that point, not a construction manager? I don't know. But once we've identified what those scopes are, then I need to have a conversation with Brad to make sure that we're complying with town procurement policies and not just kind of running off, with the project on our own. So that's where we're at right now, settling up the budget, finding out how we're going to procure all the services, getting updated pricing on the firing range equipment. And then I will sit down with the police department and come up with a sort of a project management plan, including a communications plan, so that the folks at the police department are clear who's in charge here. So the project, the client or the owner is you, the Public Site and Building Commission, the end user is the police department. But we want to be sure that the correct sort of communication flow happens and the correct authorization of expenditures and decisions on timeline are made here, and that sort of there aren't any sort of backdoor or, you know, kind of off project or off public discussions going on. We're going to have to be careful when the project is under construction to make sure that we're complying with the scope that's defined and not adding on or changing things. So there's a little bit of a communications plan that needs to happen. And then once we know from Action Target what their timeline is, because again, that's also up in the air. I don't know if they can procure and supply and install this equipment in 2 months, in 12 months. We need to have that conversation with them as well once their quote is revised and finalized. So we're in the very early planning stages, but as soon as we have a plan, a budget and a timeline, we'll certainly be bringing that to you for your information and for your approval and your buy-in.
Good.
Okay. And like I said, we'll have to get some more specifics about that budget amount that was, I think I'm remembering the referendum amount was like a 4.3. Well, the referendum amount was 3 point something plus the 800,000 extra plus that the town put in. So it was about 4.3. So theoretically, if we're looking at what Brad gave me, we're sort of over budget. But again, I've got to find out what were those items.
Yeah.
We as a building committee have not approved any amounts except for, I think in it was either late 2020 or early 2021, we paid Downs an amount that was due them with an application for payment. And then we paid Brian, and those are, and then the few things that we did, and I think those were back in either 2019 and early 2020 with the blinds and the bridges over the ductwork, and there was 1 or 2 other little things that we did. So I'll have to look a little bit further into that and see what I can find out. Because I know Brad has it all in spreadsheets by year, and then it has who was paid. So it's easy to find, like, you know, if it was Jakunski Humes or if it was Downs, we know where those amounts go. But if there are other things, like I think we did have special testing labs doing some testing there, you know, and actually early on, didn't we have to do we did some borings and site soil testing and things like that. So, but then through the project, we had to do concrete. I think we had to do steel testing, et cetera. So what companies did the FF&E come from? But looking into all of that, making sure that everything on those spreadsheets is part of the project and not additional.
Yep.
Because I kind of don't think that the engineering report and all those things should be part of it. But again, if that's where they put it, maybe it needs to get moved out.
Yeah. That's just it. There's got to be some additional items in there, Nancy, because
Yeah, I think there are.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. I don't think I have anything else on the police station right now. And anybody have any other questions or et cetera? Anything for questions for Geraldine? Good. Okay. So then the only other thing is the Municipal Center renovations, which I do not have an update on that. Although I will tell you that I was at the Municipal Center today, and the front doors the double doors by where the first selectman's office is, those were being replaced. I was like, yay. They've been fixing them for I don't know how many years, and they work for a couple of days, then they stop working. And very similar to the doors by the GP room, which are part of this project that, you know, we looked at replacing those. Again, I need I need direction from, in a way, from the Board of Selectmen or Board of Finance, whichever, in who's doing, are we Architects Guild and that engineer that gave us a quote, they're kind of ready to jump in and do the work to update the plans, because the plans have to be updated and to be compliant with code. And plus the Board of Selectmen added in changing out all the windows on that window wall that goes down the hallway to the gym. That was not originally part of what we looked at several years ago. I could see wanting to do that, make it more energy efficient, et cetera, and even change out those doors because they don't work half the time. But if that's going to be coming from some of this grant money, then let's get started on it. We need some plans. We need some construction documents to get out there. All righty. John Menti.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Opposed? Good night, everyone. Good night, Kathy.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathy.
Bye-bye.
Sorry we
Bye.
couldn't see you, Kathy.
Bye.
Good
Yeah,
night.
Okay, bye-bye.